Page 82, 6 lines from the top. Hakitza'akosa. God says, I want to go down and see if the yell of Sodom is as it sounds like, then there's going to be destruction. So we were talking yesterday about the concept of one of the things that the Medrash says they did is there's a girl, according to one opinion, is the daughter of Lot, one of Lot's daughters, who fed this poor man. The people of Sodom had a certain justified approach. And when you justify things, that's when you're really in trouble. They were the original capitalists. They were really the original capitalists. That's why it says in Pirkei Avos, somebody who says in Pirkei Avos, Sheli Shelcha, there are 4 different types of people. There's a guy who says, yours is mine and mine is yours. Right? That they calls an Am Ha'aretz. That's the standard mindset of people. Listen, we're here to, if I give you, I expect back in return. But, you get from me and I expect to get back from you. There's the guy who says, Sheli, Sheli, v'shalach, shalach. Mine is mine and yours is yours. Then there's the guy who says, mine is mine and yours is yours. That's average. Some say that's the concept of Sodom. And Pirkei says, Yeshomrim zo midas Sodom. Then there's a guy who says, what's yours is mine and what's mine is mine. Now, that's a Russia. Right? The world is here for me. And then there's the guy who says, what's mine is yours and what's yours is yours. That's the tzaddik. I'm here for other people. So when you stop and think about it, what Pirkei Avos is really telling you, Pirkei Avos is really the forerunner telling you that there's a concept of communism and a concept of capitalism. What's mine is yours and yours is mine. That's communism. Right? That's communism. And it carried out to an extreme. You had Russia, it carried out to the extreme. You had Israel. Right? The difference is that Israel's communism worked up to a certain point because the communism in Israel, which was the kibbutz movement, was for survival. In Russia, they would have done very well if they would have left alone to work, each man work his farm instead of being a collective. They were forced to do that by the government. That's why it failed. In Israel, when you're coming here as a group, we all got to work together over here. Otherwise, none of us are going to make it here. So it was absolutely necessary. Yet, it's frowned upon. That's not the ideal in mankind. And then he comes along and says, what's mine is mine and yours is yours. What's wrong with it? That makes sense. Capitalism. As Ronald Reagan said, let them pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Except that he overlooked the fact that some people don't even own bootstraps. Right? Capitalism, why should if you think about tzedakah logically, charity logically, why should I give you money that I worked for? Go work. Go get a job. So what do you want for the people of Sodom? The answer is, the commentaries say, even by the nations, even though it's not one of the 7 Noachide laws, it's not one of the 7 Noachide, tzedakah isn't one of the 7 Noachide laws, but it's something that is so intuitive, it's so instinctive in human nature, that you see somebody starving, you help them out. What do you gotta, everybody does that. And if you don't, then you're a cruel person. You've gone above and beyond the level of cruelty. Therefore, the people of Sodom. So what did they do? They take this girl. This girl goes and she feeds this poor man. So they're wondering, how's this poor man surviving over here? So they start tracing him. Hire a couple of private detectives. They find out that she's giving. So they take her and they put her on the roof. They strip her. They put honey all over her body, and the bees sting her to death. So what's as a form of torture, that works. Right? They'll certainly be discouraging to people. Anybody, a girl's up on the roof screaming her lungs out because she's dying a gruesome death. So obviously anybody says, well, what's happening over there? Well, she was feeding poor people. Okay, let's scratch that off our to-do list. No more feeding poor people. So that works certainly as an intimidation. Right? That works. Okay, but why that? So I think there's a little bit more depth to the Medrash. And this again goes into, remember we spoke about yesterday, you're worse off doing an Vayeira that you justify than doing an Vayeira when you know you're doing something wrong. When you're doing something wrong, it can be corrected. Once you justify your approach, then you're even worse because then you're never going to turn back. So what happened over here? What was their justification? Their justification was, look, we have a fertile land over here. The Medrash describes it as every time they pulled out a vegetable out of the ground, they found gold underneath, which is not literal. But it means that it's very fertile land, very fertile soil. We have a very good society. It's functioning well. We don't want we don't want people draining our society and our resources. We don't want to create a welfare state. Okay, I understand that. But who said you're allowed to be selfish like that? So what's their justification? Imagine they come over to this girl and they say to her, listen, you're feeding a poor person. We don't want you feeding poor people. She says, listen, what can it hurt? She says, you know what? And this is always an approach when confronting people. You know what? If you're going to do it your way, I don't want you to be a hypocrite. We say don't feed anybody. You're the goody two-shoes who wants to worry about everybody, so why are you only worried about human beings? Why don't you feed the living creatures also? Yeah, you're the goody. We say don't feed anybody. You want to be such a goody-goody? So go take care of everybody. Go take care of the world. Go take care of the bees. Why don't you go feed the bees? And instead of feeding the bees with your hands, you know what? Since you're such a goody-goody, why don't you feed the bees with your whole body? And this is what you want, not what we want. So we'll help you out. How's that? No. Why not? Well, they're going to sting me to death. Why? One little bee can't kill you. Yeah, but it's not going to be one little bee. One little bee is going to come, then more are going to come. More. That's exactly what we're saying. You're telling us, well, feeding one little poor person isn't going to hurt. Oh, yes, it will. Because one poor person is going to tell his friend and another poor person, and they're going to drain our resources. And therefore, you're getting exactly what you want, and we kill you. Right? Beautiful justification, right? Beautiful argument. There's only one problem. You know what it is? They're wrong. Isn't it amazing how you could justify something in life and still be wrong? Men do it all the time. Right? You justify it, and you're absolutely wrong. And the Gemara says Rabbi Vayeira once had a disciple who can bring you 150 proofs that a reptile is a kosher animal. He could prove to you with the thumbs. He could, with all the lumdus, he'll show you that a reptile, a snake is a kosher animal. There's only one problem, which is what? It's not. Right? You got 150 proofs that it is, but it's not. That's the only problem. That's the only problem. I think I remember my algebra teacher in first year algebra in high school. He had a way of proving that 1 times 1 is 0, something like that. And he showed us this whole long proof on the board. There's only one problem. It's not. Right? But and that's where the people of Sodom, what the real claim against the people of Sodom is. Okay? So then God says, look, I got to tell Avram what's about to happen. So he tells Avram, and here the Torah goes into something that's also very, very difficult to understand. Take a look at Pasuk Chaf Daled. So Avram, Hashem indicates to Avram that there's going to be destruction. Now pay attention very carefully over here. Pasuk Chaf Daled, page 82. So Avram says, Vayigash Avraham Vayomar Ha'aftispet Tzadik im Rasha. God, will you destroy the righteous with the wicked? Ula yesh chamishim tzadikim b'soch ha'ir. Maybe there are 50 righteous men in the town. Ha'aftispe v'lo sisa l'mokal l'man chamishim ha'tzadikim asher b'kirba. Will you destroy the place and not spare it in the merit of the 50 tzadikim? Now you notice that the 2 words tzadikim in this pasuk, if you look at the word tzadikim normally has a yud between the final kuf and the mem. In pasuk 24, the word tzadikim is tzadik yud kuf mem sofis. It doesn't have a yud between the kuf and the final mem. Both times it's missing the yud. So the commentaries point out, yeah, you know what? He didn't mean that they're perfectly righteous people. These aren't, it's not like you have 50 Rabbi Wags or Rabbi Samitz running around in Sodom. Don't worry, you're not going to find that. But relative to the other people there, they're tzadikim. That's why it's missing the yud. It means tzaddikim who have shortcomings. Tzaddikim are not fully perfect tzaddikim. That's what the missing yud indicates. But for them, you have to spare. Now listen what's going on over here. What is Avram Avinu's approach to life? Chesed, concern for other people. Here you have a bunch of people who are living exactly the opposite of Avram. They are the epitome of cruelty. Exactly the opposite of Avram, the epitome of cruelty and epitome of immorality, and Avram Avinu goes to bat for them. That shows you Avram Avinu's concern for the people. Avram goes, hey, Hashem, maybe they'll do tshuva. We have to have some concern. We're not happy. It's not like, oh, good, let's go see them nuke the Rishayim. Avram Avinu goes to bat for them. Now you have over here the first Jew bargaining in history. 50, maybe 45. Maybe there's 40. Do I hear 30? 20, right? And he gets them down to 10. If there are 10 tzaddikim in the entire town. So it's very interesting. I don't know if you ever heard of the Satmar, Rav Yoel from Satmar. Have you ever heard of Rav Yoel? He was the leader of the Satmar Hasidim. And the Satmar Hasidim, if you're aware of, the Satmar Hasidim are not in any way Zionistic. The Satmars are probably the most vocally anti-Zionistic group. I don't know if you're familiar with them. And so the Satmar Rabbi Yoel from Satmar actually wrote an entire sefer castigating the Zionist movement. And so somebody once came to him. Now, he was a very sharp man, Rabbi Yoel from Satmar. He died in 1979. He was the leader of the Satmar Chasidim. He was one of the Gedolei Ador. So somebody once came to Rabbi Yoel from Satmar and said to him, I don't understand, look at the Torah story. In the Torah, you got all these rotten people in Sodom. And what does Avram Avinu do? Avram Avinu goes to bat for them. And yet you, when it comes to the Zionists, all you do is you criticize and criticize and criticize. So Rabbi Yoel said to the man, listen, the Torah only reports what Avram Avinu said to God. Please, God, spare them. That he went to bed. Torah only reports what Avram Avinu said to God. The Torah doesn't tell you what Avram Avinu was saying to the people of Sodom. You can be reassured that Avram Avinu went to the people and said, hey, people, you are doing wrong. He was very critical of the people of Sodom when he talked to the people of Sodom. He says, you only know what I say to the Zionists. Then he started crying. He said, you don't hear what I daven to Hashem about the Zionists. When I speak to Hashem, you don't hear what I have to say. That means, the people have to be told off. But just you tell somebody off, you finish telling somebody off, then go into the shul and daven that the person should do tshuva. They're two completely different approaches. Avram Avinu is talking only about, the Torah tells us what Avram Avinu said to Ribono Shalom. Please, Ribono Shalom, try to spare the city. Try to spare them. Doesn't say a word about what Avram Avinu said to the people of Sodom. Hey, what are you guys doing over here? Get your acts together. You're a bunch of cruel murderers. What are you doing? That the Torah doesn't report, but for sure Avram Avinu was saying that. What do we just let them go? Avram Avinu was involved in instructing and teaching the entire world. So somebody once pointed out something very interesting. Imagine they would have found the 10 tzaddikim. Let's say they would have found the 10 tzaddikim, and the city of Sodom would not have been overturned. So then, what would the newspapers in Sodom have said the next morning? What would the headlines have read? What would the headlines in Sodom have said the next morning? Let's say there would have not been an earthquake in Houston. What would the Houston newspapers have said the next morning?
Like they knew that they were going to die.
Oh, very good. No, they didn't. The people of Sodom didn't know. They didn't know. Let's say there would have been not an earthquake. What was it in Houston that they had a storm? Let's say somewhere. Wasn't there an earthquake somewhere recently? There was an earthquake somewhere in Mexico. Mexico State had okay. Let's say there wouldn't have been an earthquake in Mexico. What would the newspaper reports have said the next morning? No, earthquake bypasses Mexico. No, it wouldn't. Nobody knew. If it would have known there was an earthquake coming, they wouldn't have been in their homes to begin with. They wouldn't have been in the buildings. What's that? They wouldn't mention it. Nobody knows when earthquakes happen. If the people know where they happen, nobody would get killed in earthquakes. So the people, it wouldn't have said a word about it. You didn't even know the disaster was lurking. It was looming over you. Excuse me, you didn't know about that. The people of Sodom didn't know. If there would have been 10 tzaddikim, so then there wouldn't have been, you understand? No. Imagine, we always have, you have a kollel in Israel. 10 tzaddikim are learning Torah in a kollel. We have no idea what we're being protected by. Well, what we're being protected from. You have no idea what your Torah is protecting the Jewish people from. You're sitting and learning Torah. Goodness knows how you're protecting the Jewish people. What you're protecting us from. We don't even know. Because we're only told afterwards what happened when you didn't find the tzaddikim. Rabbi Tatz once told us a story here at Or Sameach. He said in Germany in World War II, there was a woman in the ghetto who was pregnant. And somehow she had to get to a woman's doctor. She was heavily pregnant. So she goes to this doctor. Apparently she was able to get out. At that point she gets to the women's doctor. And the women's doctor says to her, listen, she examines her. She says, you can't go back to the ghetto because eventually everybody's going to be killed. She says, stay here and I'm going to hide you. The woman says to her, listen, I have a husband. She says, so bring your husband. Bring your husband and hide both of you. She says, well, I have parents. So bring your parents. She says, yeah, but my husband has parents also. She says, bring your husband's parents. She says, yeah, but I have brothers and sisters. So in the end, I think there were 22 people. She ended up hiding these 22 people for a year and a half. 22 people in a cellar somewhere, she hid them. Okay. About 50 years later, this couple, that woman who was pregnant, the original woman, she and her husband were already great-grandparents. They were living in the United States, and they had a big family celebration for their 50th anniversary. So they decided to see if they could track down this woman in Germany see if she's still alive, because they had over about 200 descendants already. They were great-grandparents. They had about 200 descendants. They wanted to see if they could track down this woman, and they found her. She was still alive. She was real. They flew her into New York, and they brought her to the celebration to show her this. You got 200 descendants all because of you. So somebody asked her, why did you do it? She said because she remembered the biblical story about Abraham going to bat for Sodom, looking to see if she could find 10 righteous people. She said, I knew that Germany was bound to be destroyed. I wanted to see if I could find 9 more people like myself. Maybe we could save Germany. That's what she said. I failed. She said, but I wanted to see if maybe we could do it. So over here, Avram Avinu goes to bat. Now, let's see what happens. The Malachim come to Sodom. God says, okay, I'll give you 10 people. Take a look at page 84. Pick it up on Pasuk Aleph on page 84. Vayavo, it's right in the middle of the page. Okay, now we're going to have to take this pasuk by pasuk. Vayavo shnei malachim Sodoma ba'erev. The 2 angels come to Sodom. Velot yoshev b'shar Sodom. Lot was in the gates of Sodom. Vayar Lot vayokam lilikrosa veishtach l'payim arti. Lot sees them and he comes to greet them. Now he learned from Avram Avinu that when you're a guest, you greet the guests. Okay. So, Vayomer hinena Adonai suruna al beis avdechem. Come to my house. Velinu v'rachatzu raglechem. Come in, sleep, wash off your feet. V'ishkamtem v'alachtem adarkechem. Then you go. You'll travel. Vayomer lo ki barachov nalin. No, we'll sleep out in the street. We learned from here that when an important personage says something to you, you agree right away. Ein misorvin legodol. Somebody prominent says something, offers you, asks you to do something, you do it. By Avram Avinu, we asked them to come in. They came in immediately. Lot says, "Come on in." No, we'll stay out here. Misorvin lekotten. Somebody who's not a prominent person, you could refuse, certainly at first. So then he says, "Vayiftzar bam meod." He urges them very much. Vayasure la vayoel beso. They come to his house. Vayasle mishto matzos ofa vayachel. He makes them food and drink. Terem yishkavu, they not yet lay down. Ve'anshe ha'ir, anshe Sodom, the people of the city of Sodom, nasabu alabais minar ve'azokin, young to old, kol ha'am mikotza. The entire people surround the house. Hey, Lot has guests in the house. Whoa, you've just broken the law. You've just smuggled in a couple of guests in there. I say, no guests in Sodom. Vayikru el Lot, vayomer lo, ayeya anoshim asher bo elech halayla, hotzia elenu v'nei de'osam. Send them out so we could sodomize them. That's where the word comes from. The word Sodom comes from this pasuk. The word sodomy comes from this pasuk. Sodomy means a verb form of the word Sodom, of the name of the city of Sodom. Send them out. You ever want to discourage guests? You want to discourage guests? Get everybody around them, and offer to threaten to do what the entire town wants to do to these guys. That'll stop guests. That'll discourage guests, right? So that's why it's a good idea to stay out of a state penitentiary in the United States, right? The what do you call it? Don't do what do you call it? Probably the one of the worst 10 seconds of my life was when I was arrested with some of my friends. We drove in an area where the cops, there was a minor demonstration, and the cops said, everybody clear the area out, and we drove past. I was about 20, and we drove past in a car, so a cop arrested us, because we weren't supposed to be there, so we got arrested for disturbing the peace. Nothing, no grace of Gedilla. So he takes us and puts us in the local lockup in Albany Park. So we're in the lockup, we're waiting for our friends to come, they have to post $25 bond or whatever it was. So we're in the lockup for about an hour and a half. All of a sudden, I remember this young cop comes in. He says, okay, guys, the wagon's here. They're taking you on down a county, which is Cook County Federal Penitentiary. And I was like, whoa. And he just looks at us. And I'm like, we're not breathing. Federal Penitentiary. And he just waits about a couple of seconds and goes, just kidding. Your buddies are here to bail you out. Right? Then we got arrested for killing a cop. Right? That was a bad 5 seconds. That was like, whoa, Cook County Federal Penitentiary. That's what they decided to do to discourage these 2 people. Now, Rav Hirsch says over here in this pasuk, you have 2 approaches to explain to you why Sodom has to be destroyed and how deep-rooted their evil was. Now, pay attention carefully. In your experience in life, first of all, who would you say, where do you find liberals? Young people or older people? Who tends to be liberal? Young people. Older people tend to be a little more, the Archie Bunkers of the world, a little bit more conservative. Younger people are always worried about everybody. We got to be nice to everybody, be kind to everybody, worry about the people here, right? They're young and idealistic, which means they've never started working. That's what's happened, because they've never worked for a living. So they're young and idealistic. They got to work. Then all of a sudden you become a little bit more conservative. So you would expect that when it comes to Sodom, when it comes to cruelty. So we understand if there's somebody that's going to be cruel to guests, where would you expect to find it? By the older people. Immorality, where do you find immorality? By younger people or older people? Liberal approaches to life, where do you usually find that? By the younger people. The older people also the older people are very critical of the younger people doing exactly what the older people did when they were young. And it's the irony of life. They got older, and all of a sudden they became, well, listen, kid, for doing exactly what they were doing when they were young. What do you find over here? Cruelty by the younger people. Look at the pasuk. The pasuk says they surrounded the house, young to old. That means the young were involved in cruelty, which is out of the ordinary, and the old were involved in immorality, which is also out of the ordinary. That means that the evil was so deeply rooted, everybody was involved at every level, young and old, even in the things that naturally they wouldn't be involved in, number one. Number two, where does it start? And this is the key to the whole thing. Normally you should say from old to young. The older people went there, and the younger people came along. Who are the initiators over here? The initiators over here were the young. It says, Minar ve'adzake. The younger ones were the initiators. That means that the ideology of cruelty was so deep-rooted that the youth were indoctrinated with it. That's when there's no hope. That's what if you ever go out, those of you who ever become a rabbi, a communal rabbi, every communal rabbi who ever tried to do anything with his community, who do you think they work on? Any communal rabbi in America, in any city, where do you start? Who do you work on? You work on the older people to get donations, because otherwise you can't, they keep the show running. But when you're trying to accomplish something, who do you work on? You work on the kid. You work on the youth. Get this kid, try to make him frum, send him off to yeshiva, take her, send her off to seminary. You're not going to send off adults. Adults are set in their ways. Who do you start with? You start with the youth. Start with the young. The young are much more pliable. There's much more room to maneuver with younger people. But when it's already indoctrinated in them for the youth, that means that the entire root is rotted. There's no room to maneuver. You've indoctrinated. They're all been brainwashed. Call it what you will, but they've been from youth. There's no hope. That's why the city has to be overturned. Okay, so Lot goes out. Now listen to this. And again, I've mentioned this in the past. It's a very, very harsh. It's something very harsh, but I think you need to know it. Vayetze aleim Lot hapesko. Lot goes out. Ve'adela sagar acharav. He closed the door behind him. Vayomar al noachai tareo. Please don't do this evil. Hine no li shtei banos. I have two daughters. Asher lo yadu ish. They're virgins. Otzia no esen aleichem v'asulam katov. Here, take my daughters and do whatever you want to them. Rak la noshim el al tasu dover ki alkein bo v'tzol. You just leave my guests alone. Can you imagine? What? Could you imagine a father just taking his daughters, here, take my daughters, do what you want with them? There isn't a father in the world would take on the entire crowd and die rather than go and give up his daughters. Isn't that true? What father? For what? So first of all, you see over here, this is also something you see all the time. There's a distortion in priorities. Sometimes you have a man who's rotten to his family. He's just nice to everybody else outside the home. Yeah, at work he's just terrific, and when he has guests, he's the nicest guy in the world. Everybody thinks that, and his family thinks he's a monster. Because he's got just a distorted priority. So in Torah, the way chesed works, chesed is a series of concentric circles. First, your chesed, your biggest responsibility is to your inner circle. Your wife, your children, you're good to them, then you could start expanding it, then expand it. But in the world at large, it's usually not like we put our best way. You're charming in the office, aren't you? Everybody's charming. That's why people in the office have an affair and they run off, right? He has a wife. She's got a husband. Both of them treat him miserably. And in the office, everybody's charming till they get married and they can't stand each other, right? And now they got to live together. And then he can't. But everybody's, oh, he's such a nice guy. His wife thinks he's an absolute monster. right? Oh, she's such a sweetheart. Her husband thinks she sounds like fingernails on a chalkboard, right? Yet at the office, she's just wonderful, right? Sweet peaches and cream. Why? Because we have a distorted price. In Torah, it's the opposite. Torah's the opposite. Torah says, hey, take care of your family. Be nice to your wife. Do you know Reb Chaim Vital, those of you who ever plan on getting married, which is all of you, right? Until I say this, then you might change your mind. But Reb Chaim Vital says, a man dies. After 120 years, he comes up, Daniel. And then God looks over the ledger. They open up his chesed ledger. And Reb Chaim Vital says, they check to see how he treated his wife. If he was nice to his wife, he gets credit for all the other chesed that he did. If he was nice to the world, but he didn't treat his wife properly, they take up all the chesed, they rip it into shreds and toss it in their wastebasket. How do you like that, Yoli? Did you? You know why? Because if you're really concerned about doing chesed, why aren't you treating your wife nicely? Why? Because you don't get any. Nobody's impressed if you don't. Nobody goes, "Ooh, what a nice man" when you go and do the dishes. Right? Nobody says, "Ooh, he's so considerate" when you sit and listen to your wife attentively without interrupting. I know we're into science fiction here, right? But nobody says, "Oh, what a nice," and nobody's impressed. So you don't get any awards at home. That's the hard chesed. In the office, if you hold the door open, oh, he's so kind. He held the door open. Wow, he's so sweet. He's so attentive. And I could always tell couples on the bus, not from couples, secular couples. I could tell if they're married or not. If they're laughing and joking together on the bus, they're obviously not married. Obviously, they're acquaintances. Because husband and wife never like that. See, it's like the bus driver is talking to a woman. Sometimes I go, woman, old young woman, young woman. And just charming. He's Prince Charming and she's Prince Charmingette. Right? Princess Charmingette. Wonderful. They're obviously not his wife. Obviously not his wife. We'd never talk to his wife that way. Right? So the Torah is telling you there's distorted priorities over here. Now, let's go back to the first question. How could you possibly, so Chaim Vital says, no chesed credit because you didn't treat your wife nicely. Because if you really cared about doing chesed, being nice to people, why aren't you nice to the people you should be nice to? Right? Very harsh. So let's go back over here. Lot says, here, take my daughters. Do you know anybody else in the world who would do such a thing? Could you imagine? So I want to tell you something, gentlemen. I know millions of people who do it, and they do it to this day and age. Millions of people. You know who? Every father who sends his daughter off to a college campus. Every single man who sends his daughter off to a college campus is doing exactly what Lot did. He's saying, here, take my daughter, guys. Take my daughter. Return her home 4 years later as a shmata with a couple of abortions. Go ahead. And not only that, I'll pay $30,000 a year for it. Right? What are you expecting? Daughter goes off to college. You got 30,000 20-year-olds in one place with a lot of alcohol around. What are you expecting? What are you expecting? You go, oh no, she'll be different. No, she won't. What makes you think she's going to be different? Statistically, they're not different. Do you know that Cornell University has the most popular suicide spot in the United States? Cornell University has a bridge. Apparently, it's a very popular suicide spot. Girls are throwing themselves off that bridge all the time. Guy goes to college. He has a great time. Hey, this is great. Girl goes off to college. She's used and abused. She's either depressed or anorexic. These are facts. That's not I'm saying. So Lot said, this is what a father is capable of. So what a man says, yeah, but what choice have I got? What should we do with our daughter? I don't understand. You have no choice. Therefore, you do something that most men in the world would die for before they would do it? Go live in Alaska. I don't know what you should do. Go live in an igloo somewhere. Lock her up somewhere. I have no idea. But I know what not to do. You mean you got no? Or maybe try becoming from. Right? Maybe that'll help. Right? And then we understand why we have a segregated society. Because we're not willing to do that. That's our objection to sending daughters to the army. You send a girl to the army, she's under the jurisdiction, and just go online, gentlemen, and see what the statistics are of the Israeli army. For abortions, for abuses, for arrests of officers who take advantage. This is where we're coming from. And this is what Lot is doing. This is the Torah is telling you, it didn't stop with Lot. It started with Lot. It's been continuing on. It's been continuing on ever since. Okay. So they said, no, we don't want that, we want the guests. And then you skip down to Pasuk Yud. They decide to break the door down. And then take a look at Pasuk Yud. Vayishluchu ha'anoshim es yodam. The two angels stretch out their hand. Vayaviu es Lot aleim abaisa. They pull Lot into the house. Remember, they are angels after all. Ves hadela sagaru. They close the door. What do you do with the crowd of people outside? Ve'esa asher pesach habayis hiku basan veirim. The men outside, they blinded. They cast the spell of blindness on everybody. Mikoton ve'ad godo vayilu limtzoa pesach. Okay, so then they come to Lot. They bring him into the house. They say, listen, we're going to destroy this place. And you have to understand how this sounds to Lot. You're being told now, by the way, this place is being destroyed. This was about as likely as being destroyed. If somebody would come to you and say, the United States is about to become destroyed, chas v'shalom. The United States is about to be destroyed. Listen, we're pretty solid over here. I don't believe. So when Lot says to his son-in-law, hey, God's going to destroy this place, they look at him and you're a madman. It's like one of those guys in New York walking the street says, repent, the world's coming to an end. All these guys that you see wandering the streets, everybody says, what another nut. So that's exactly what they're looking at Lot. Lot says that God's going to destroy the city. He's a nut. So the angels say to Lot, listen. Go down to Pasuk 15. As the sun rose, they quickly urged him. They said, Kum kaches ishtecha v'shtei v'nosecha nimtzos. Take your wife and your two daughters, penti safe ba'avon ha'ir, lest you be destroyed because of the sin of the city. Vayismama, Lot delays. And Lot is a very wealthy man. Remember, when he went to Sodom, he was accepted with open arms. You've got a guy with a wealthy investor coming to town. He's got a lot of stuff there. And all of a sudden you're being told, turn around and go right now. They always ask, and why didn't the Jews run away from Germany? Why didn't they leave Germany when they died? How easy is it? How easy is it to turn around, leave everything behind and go? Penniless, just go. It's not so easy. And we'd like to see something, there's speculation, we heard rumors, until you're convinced, and which is usually too late. It's not so easy, just turn around and run. Vayismama, he delays. Vayachaziku anoshim biyodo v'yarishto v'yadshte v'nosa. They came in, his wife and his two daughters. B'chemlas Hashem olav, because Hashem has compassion on him. Vayotziu v'neyichu b'chutz leir. They take him and they put him outside the city. Now, pay attention carefully. Pasuk Yud Zayin, 3 lines from the bottom. Gentlemen, watch the words. Vayehi kehotzia mosam hachutza. When they put him out, vayomer, the angel says to him, Himolet al nafshecha. Run for your life. Al tabita acharecha. Don't look back. Val tamod b'chol hakikar. Don't stand anywhere in the plains. Hahara himolet pantisava. Go off to the mountains lest you be destroyed. So the angel says to Lot, don't look back. What does don't look back mean? So first of all, as you're leaving the city, hey, this was my home. This was my town. This is where I did everything. Everything bad and everything even worse. It's where my money. Don't look back. Don't have any regret about leaving this behind. None of this was any good. Don't look back. That goes for tshuva. Sometimes a person becomes about tshuva. You had to leave everything. Don't look back. Just forget about it. Forget about everything in the past. Things in the past were wrong. Forget about it. Real tshuva is that you're willing to let it go and you have no regrets about letting it go. Sometimes, you think back wistfully, boy, I remember those Vayeiras, no, boy, I let him go, but I still remember those Vayeiras. No. Don't look back. Forget all about it. Wipe it out. That's real tshuva. Real tshuva is, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Not that, well, I'm glad I did it, but now it's time for something else. Real tshuva is, boy, I wish I never would have done it. Don't look back, number one. Number two, you don't deserve to look back. You know why you don't deserve to look back? Because the Shekhinah is there, the divine presence is there. Right? And number three, imagine the following. You got 3 brothers in a home. This very much is very close to my family. The 3 brothers in the home. You got the one brother who's the goody-goody, cooperates, does his homework, does everything good. So he's up in his room doing his studying. And what I tell you is very close to exactly how things were. And the parents leave for the evening. They say, okay, guys, just behave. And the minute the parents walk out the door, so Reuven stays up in his room doing homework. And the minute the parents close the door, Shimon and Levi go into the living room, and there's big-time wrestling, right? They're big-time wrestling matches they're never allowed to do while the parents are out at home. All of a sudden, in the living room on the carpet, on a nice soft couch and floor, so big-time wrestling or tackle football with the Nerf, whichever it is that they're not allowed to do, but the parents aren't home. And they're throwing a Nerf ball around the living room, and Shimon throws it at Levi, and Levi ducks, and it smacks a lamp, and it breaks the lamp. Okay, and just then the parents come home. Again, there's a shattered lamp on the floor. Father says, okay, who broke the lamp? Shimon says, I did. I threw the football. Right? So father takes Shimon over his lap. Right? He starts, what is Levi's best move at that moment? What should Levi, who was involved with Shimon while it happened, not as guilty, but had Levi not been there, Shimon wouldn't have been throwing that football. What should Levi do if he's smart? What's that? Get out, get as far away from your father as you possibly could. Now, could you imagine, Shimon is getting whacked, and Levi just standing there peeking around the corner, watching it, watching what's happening to Shimon over there. If the father sees it, get over here, right? You don't deserve to watch this, right? The best thing, Levi, you should have gotten away as far as you can. You don't deserve to watch. And what happens if just then Reuven, who's been studying the whole time, comes walking through the room? The father doesn't say, Father doesn't even, you're fine. You're nowhere near any of this. That was Avram, Lot, and the people of Sodom. Avram, because Baruch Hu tells him what's going to happen. I'm telling you, I'm going to destroy these people. Avram has no connection to any of this. So not only that, I'll even let you watch the whole thing. I'm telling you what's about to happen. The people of Sodom, they're the one who are going to be destroyed. Lot, you're getting out by the skin of your teeth. Don't you turn around and watch it. You're not much better than any of them. You don't deserve to see the destruction. You're not much better than any of them. Okay? And here, I think that this is a life lesson for us. Don't look back means in life people make a mistake all the time. You made a decision. The decision that you made at any stage of life, you made a decision. The decision was made based on, you looked at the available data and you made a decision. The decision was a good decision. You consulted with a Rav. You thought about things. You chose a path in life. Sometimes people do that. They made the right decision. Objectively was the right decision. And what would happen if the Coca-Cola company would offer you to become the CEO of Coca-Cola at a 7-digit salary? Right now, what would you do? I would quit any job that I've got, and I would take that job. That's a good job, right? Then you take the job, and the very next day, Coke goes bankrupt. And you lose your job, now you have no job at all. And then you kick yourself, why did I take that job? I understand. At the time, was it the right decision? Was it a logical decision? Anybody you would ask would have said, yeah, of course, take the job. Coke has been solid. They've been around 150 years. It's a solid job, 7 digits. Why not? You had no way of knowing that the next day they were going to find cyanide in all of Coke, and the whole Coke was closed down. Across the world, they went bankrupt. You had no way of knowing that was going to happen. Yet people do that all the time. They say, oh, why did I do that? And you eat yourself alive. I understand, you're not a prophet. You're not meant to be a prophet. You have to be a prophet to know that's going to happen. Don't look back. Don't look back. You made a decision in life. Don't look back. Unless there's something you can do about it. But if there's nothing you can do about it, don't look back. So the angel says to Lot, get out of here. Don't look back. Start a new life. Detach completely cut off any connection to Sodom. Get out and don't look back. That's what the Malach says. All right, we'll stop here. Continue tomorrow.